Folks, every once in a while, the Trump administration does something so chaotic, so laughably insane and hypocritical that the whole internet just has to throw our hands up and laugh. Despite spending his entire campaign complaining about immigrants and saying how he's going to be America first, all of a sudden he does a complete 180 on immigration and refugee status, but only from one country in particular. It turns out Trump's entire immigration policy can be summed up by this picture of Peter Griffin going through the skin tone checkpoint. You guys have probably guessed which country I'm talking about, but if not, here's a clue. If this country never existed, we wouldn't have Elon Musk ruining all of our lives right now. I'm of course talking about South Africa, home of Elon Musk, and a place where the descendants of the apartheid, who are 7% of the population, own 72% of the farmland. The South Africans' attempt to reparate that land has been called by Elon Musk a white genocide. He says the legacy media never mentions white genocide in South Africa because it doesn't fit their narrative that whites can be victims. This is the same Elon Musk who's been saying that empathy is a weakness and has turned Twitter into a Nazi safe haven. Even his own AI, which he sunk millions of dollars into, is saying that his claims about South Africa are verifiably, hilariously untrue. Here he is saying, yeah, Grok will spit facts that anger many. Well, here's some facts that Elon did not like to see from Grok. Are white South Africans facing racial discrimination by the government of South Africa? Somebody asked Grok. And Grok says that evidence suggests there's no direct racial discrimination, that white farmers are disproportionately affected due to historical land ownership. Yes, that pesky apartheid thorn in the side of Afrikaners everywhere.
Donald Trump's administration is aiming to bring the first group of white South Africans to the United States via its refugee program as soon as next week. 3 people familiar with the matter have said. It's a divisive move.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Especially given that Trump has been blocking refugee admissions from the rest of the world. 2 of the sources, who requested anonymity as they were sharing internal plans, said their aim is to fly the initial cohort of around 50 Afrikaners into Washington Dulles International Airport in Virginia.
It was like an answered prayer.
Life coach Katia Beeden is administrator of a website that seeks to help white South Africans take up Trump's offer.
We've been forgotten. It's very hard for us to travel. It's very hard for us to get visas. So to suddenly hear that a country like the United States is offering us refugee status was a really big deal. And I was so excited. I felt so relieved. It just felt like a lifeline.
In February, Trump issued an executive order that called for the US to resettle Afrikaner refugees. It said Afrikaners, who are descendants of mostly Dutch early settlers, were victims of unjust racial discrimination. The assertion that minority white South Africans face discrimination from the black majority has spread in far-right circles for years and been echoed by Trump's white South African-born ally, Elon Musk.
The Trump regime is arguing that these people, these descendants of land-owning first-class citizens of apartheid, these are the kinds of people that the refugee program was created to protect. Not those dirty, impoverished people who come from war-torn countries that the United States has been actively destabilizing for the last 100 years. No, let's not help those people. These are the real refugees.
The president has shown support for South African refugees that are coming to the United States next week. Can you talk about what these refugees are fleeing and why this is a priority for the administration?
Well, the president has actually signed an executive order on that matter. My office can get it back to you, Michael. But this group in South Africa has faced racial persecution. In fact, the government there has vowed to take away their farmland that they own. And so the president has talked significantly about this.
Why do they own that land, and why is it being taken away from them, Caroline? That seems like a pretty important little detail that she just glossed over. And Stephen Miller, America's Nosferatu and immigration's worst enemy, is suddenly pro-refugee if those refugees have the same skin tone as him.
What's happening in South Africa fits the textbook definition of why the refugee program was created. This is persecution based on a protected characteristic, in this case race. So this is race-based persecution. The refugee program is not intended as a solution for global poverty, and historically it has been used that way. Wherever there's global poverty or wherever there's dysfunctional governments, then the U.S. refugee program comes in, swoops people up, relocates them to America, and you have multi-generational problems. You even into the second and third generation, you have endemic poverty, you have crime issues, you have integration issues. The U.S. refugee program in America has been a catastrophic failure. I mean, if you look, for example, at the Twin Cities area, I mean, just in terms of markers of educational outcomes, in terms of public safety, in terms of welfare use, I mean, it's been a complete public policy failure. And so this is an example of the president returning the refugee program to what it was intended to be used as.
Right, he's saying that the refugee program was intended to bring over my people, not your people. Your people are just filthy poor people who are going to be poor for generations. My people, well, they're going to build generational wealth like they did in South Africa.
And then we get the Americaners. This is a site. Americaners.com is a fast path for whites in South Africa to become refugees who can then become citizens. What color is their skin? So I went over to their Twitter page and I just started going through it, and it is as bad as you think it would be. Right here on March 2nd, there's a tiny microcosm of this happening in South Africa, and it's a beautiful thing to behold. The rise of the Anglo-Saxon on the African continent made possible by Trump is palpable. The white race is waking up from a deep slumber. President Trump could hardly call us whites in the executive order because the media backlash would have been extreme. All that said, there's the OG Americaners that know full well we've done what is necessary to leave this shithole and help our fellow men and their families from safety. We're the quiet, powerful resistance made possible by our beloved President Trump. Again, resettlement in America made easy. Join our mailing list. Your heritage. I am an Afrikaans of Dutch, German, Germanic, French descent. I am English of British descent, or I am other. Which category do you think they're going to pick up on first? If you cannot see what is happening, let me open your eyes, okay? President Trump's people will take the next election with ease. For the one after that, all the Americaners will be on board as citizens to make it a trifecta. So to recap, if you have brown skin and you are here legally, it doesn't even seem to matter to ICE anymore. But if you are white and you are in South Africa and you want to come here and start a whole brand new life because President Trump and Elon, welcome. And yet, every single day we turn on the news, somebody else has been disappeared without due process. Wake up.
I mean, we have to laugh to stop ourselves from crying. Check out these comments by people reacting to the news. The refugees in question, racists who are mad they can't be racist anymore. Interesting that only white people can be mistreated or should be refugees. Thank you, Trump. Very cool. Shittiest import shipment of all time. Folks, I can't even say that they've gone completely mask off because the next step is to put the masks back on and start burning crosses. If you guys are enjoying the coverage here at Really American that MAGA hates to see, then consider dropping a like, subscribing, and joining our little resistance. I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.